After a millionaire's son bites a cleaning lady, her incredible response revealed a hidden truth. Maria woke up early, the smell of her coffee mingling with the noise of the bustling Chicago streets below. Every morning, she donned her uniform, a simple blue jumpsuit that held years of sweat and grit, but also the dreams of a better future for her 2 children. She took a deep breath, drawing strength from the aroma that filled her small kitchen. Today would be like any other, sweeping the hallways of the grand office building downtown, where the laughter of the well-dressed workers often drowned out her own struggles. As she pushed her broom, the laughter echoed around her carefree, oblivious. But Maria held on to the hope that her hard work would yield something more than just a paycheck. She wanted her children to thrive, to escape the hardships she faced. The hustle and bustle of the city pulsed around her, each promising her that the American dream was still alive, but on this particular busy afternoon, fate tugged at her heart in a way she never expected. Dylan, the co-owner's son, stormed through the lobby, frustration radiating from him like heat from the pavement. In a split second of chaos, he turned to Maria, angry and confused about the world, and impulsively bit her arm, a moment of childish rebellion that shocked everyone around. Gasps filled the air, eyes widened, and whispers cascaded like an avalanche. What followed was a press storm. Headlines blared about the privileged child biting the cleaning lady. Maria became the target of public scrutiny, a scapegoat for society's ills. Yet, instead of letting anger take over, she chose compassion. Standing in front of the cameras, she faced the world with grace and said, "I forgive him." Her words, simple yet powerful, echoed through the chambers of the office building. People watched, stunned. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her kindness disarmed many, igniting discussions about privilege, responsibility, and compassion. It wasn't just about a bite anymore, it was about deeper truths, about how we view each other. Yet at home, worry gnawed at Maria. She had a teenage son who had just returned from deployment, trying to fit into a society that felt more indifferent than ever. The pressure of his experiences weighed heavy, and Maria feared for his future amidst the temptations that led young men astray. The community event that followed saw Maria, clad in her blue jumpsuit, rise to speak. She was resolute, her voice steady, as she advocated for empathy and understanding among each other. Emotions surged in the crowd. Her passion cracked open the hardened layers of entitlement that had built up over the years, inviting recognition of their collective humanity. But as Maria left the event, there it was, her phone buzzing like a warning bell. A text that punched her in the gut. Her son was seen in a situation that could topple everything they had worked for. Heart pounding, she stared into the void of uncertainty. Would her plea for compassion resonate in her own home? Was forgiveness enough to keep her family whole, or would the weight of their struggles prove too heavy to bear? The answer felt just out of reach as shadows loomed ahead. Maria's heart raced as she clutched her phone, the screen glowing ominously in the dim hallway light. She could feel a cold sweat forming at the nape of her neck. Each second stretched painfully, echoing the nagging thoughts in her mind. What could her son have gotten into this time? It had been months since Daniel returned from deployment, but the war had left shadows behind, heavy shadows that seemed to creep into every corner of their lives. She knew he was struggling, battling both demons from the past and the pressures of civilian life. And now this. With one determined breath, she pushed the images of panic aside and dialed his number. It rang, each tone like a drumbeat of anxiety in her chest. 123 Mom. His voice gripped her desperately but faintly. She could hear the weight in his tone, the awareness that he had crossed a line somewhere. Daniel. What happened? She asked, forcing calm into her words, fighting against the fear that threatened to spill over. There was a long pause, and she could almost hear him wrestling internally. Was he unsure of how to respond to her concern, or was he simply weighing the consequences of his actions? I was at a party. There was drinking, and someone dared me to do something stupid. I need you to be honest with me. What did you do? The line went quiet except for his sharp intake of breath. I punched a guy. He was making fun of me, and I couldn't take it. The frustration and fear crashed into her like a tidal wave. Maria pictured the party, kids dressed in designer clothes, laughing and shouting, all completely unaware of the invisible battles she and her son faced. Daniel, she said softly, her voice shaking, you know this isn't the way. There are better options than violence. He cut her off, desperation clawing at his words. Mom, you don't get it. You don't know what it was like over there. I didn't have a choice. I needed to prove to show that I'm not weak. The depth of his pain pierced through her heart, and she felt the dread of loss hovering over them. You're not weak, Daniel. You're stronger for facing your struggles. But you have to choose the right battles. I don't even know who I am anymore, he mumbled. Then let us figure it out together. Please come home. We can talk, find help. We will get through this. Okay, I'll come home. Her heart made a leap at his willingness, yet, at the same time, she felt a heavy weight settle in her stomach. This wasn't over. After she hung up, Maria stood still, alone in the silence of the hallway. She took a deep breath, the once bitter coffee smell now more powerful than ever. What if the strength she had shown to the world could turn fragile within her own family? As she prepared to get back to the constant rhythms of cleaning, something stirred deep within her. She needed to reach out to every corner of her life to reconnect with Daniel, to soothe the pain, and to heal from the wounds. Pressing a hand against the wall, she suddenly felt a wave of unexpected resolve wash over her. They could rise together. She just needed a plan, a thread of hope to pull them through this darkness, but first, there was something about the upcoming school board meeting that stirred in her mind. The same meeting where she could advocate for mental health programs in schools, a ripple that could create lasting change. As she gathered her cleaning supplies, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from a friend, sharing details about an upcoming rally for community reform. Distant flickers of inspiration sparked in her mind. This could be her moment, a chance to unite and advocate for families like hers who battled silently. Maria swallowed hard, thinking of all that lay ahead. What would happen if she faced her own fears publicly? Would it truly inspire others to speak out? Would her voice make a difference beyond just her family? Only one way to find out. And with a renewed sense of purpose, she knew that this was only the beginning of her fight for her family, for the community, and for every soul struggling to be seen. Maria's mind raced with thoughts and worries about Daniel, but she knew she had to stay focused. The rally was just days away. It was time to take those first shaky steps towards something bigger than herself. She grabbed her notebook and began jotting down ideas, thoughts, anything to organize the surge of emotions swirling within her, the room filled with the aroma of old coffee and forgotten dreams as she flipped open the notebook. In big, block letters she wrote, mental health awareness. That was the heart of it. Breaking the silence surrounding mental health was crucial not just for Daniel, but for every family grappling with similar struggles. As the words filled the pages, Maria felt a flicker of hope ignite in her chest. Each letter she penned was both an affirmation of her intent and a battle cry. We need to talk. We need to share. We need to heal, she whispered to herself, pushing back the wave of doubt that crested and rolled. The challenges before her felt like insurmountable mountains, yet she could see the first light of dawn breaking over the peaks. A vision of what could be. Later that week, with a handful of flyers in her bag, Maria stood outside the school gym. Voices buzzed around her, filled with laughter and chatter. She clutched the edges of her flyers tightly, feeling the rough paper as a reminder of her mission. She was nervous, skin prickling at the thought of speaking up in front of those familiar faces. Hey, Maria! A voice called, breaking her thoughts. It was Joan, her neighbor, and a longtime friend. What do you have there? Joan eyed the flyers, a mix of curiosity and concern in her gaze. Maria hesitated only for a second before sharing. I'm planning to speak about mental health issues at the school board meeting. Joan's brows shot up in surprise. Wow! That's great. But are you sure you're ready for that? The question hung in the air, and Maria felt the weight of her response. Honestly? I'm terrified. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing the vulnerability she had kept hidden. But if we want change, if we want to help kids like Daniel, then we have to find a way to talk about it. Joan placed a reassuring hand on Maria's shoulder. You're going to do great. Just remember, you're not alone in this. Reassured yet still raw with anxiety, Maria stepped into the buzzing gym. The sight of the gathering crowd sparked her nerves anew. With each heart pulse, she reaffirmed the importance of her cause. This wasn't just for Daniel, this was for children everywhere who felt they didn't belong, for families struggling in silence. As she made her way to the front, the chatter faded, and all eyes turned toward her. The anticipation felt electric, charged with the weight of a conversation long overdue. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. In that moment, everything flashed before her: the struggle, the love, the hope. She took a breath, focused on Daniel's face, the way he looked at her when she offered him support, free of judgment. Finally, she began, her voice steady but vulnerable. I want to talk about something that impacts us all: mental health. As she dove into her speech, she felt the room pulse with her heartbeat. The nervousness transformed into strength. Maria poured out her heart and soul, sharing the story of her son and the importance of breaking the silence surrounding these issues. She was struck by how deeply the audience resonated with her words. They nodded, murmured in acknowledgement, and she could see understanding reflected back at her. Afterward, people crowded around, expressing gratitude and sharing their own stories. As the warmth of connection wrapped around her, Maria felt lighter. She wasn't just advocating for change, she was building a community. But just when she thought she could catch her breath, Daniel walked in. His posture was tense, shoulders curled in as he scanned the room. Maria's courage faltered for a moment as their eyes locked. What would he think? Would he feel her shame or pride? The question hung between them, a barrier both fragile and significant. And behind Daniel, a figure loomed, someone who could change everything. Who was that person? What role would they play in the unfolding of this story? Maria's breath caught in her throat as she stared at Daniel, who stood motionless, uneasy among the crowd. The wave of emotions crashed over her. There was pride in her heart for taking a stance, fear for how he might respond, and a renewed urgency to protect him. But who was the person standing behind him? A familiar figure she hadn't seen in years stirred memories she thought were long buried. The figure stepped forward, a slight, genial man with a big smile that reached his eyes and, unexpectedly for Maria, brought a sense of warmth. Daniel's father, Eduardo, had always been the driven type, consumed by business. With that smile, he seemed to chisel away at the cold distance that had existed between him and Daniel. Maria, he said softly, and her heart quickened. I heard about the meeting. I came to support Daniel. She blinked, taken aback. Could it be? After years of focusing solely on his career, here he was, trying to connect over something that truly mattered. But Daniel's face told a different story. His eyes darkened, and his shoulders tensed further. The discomfort radiating from him felt palpable, like heavy static in the air. Maria wanted to console her son, but she knew she couldn't ignore Eduardo, who had entered the space bearing an acknowledgement of both guilt and hope. Daniel, she began, taking a step closer, the flyers still clutched tightly in her hand. I know what you were doing, Mom. He snapped, startling her. The heat in his voice drew several heads over in their direction. You were out there talking about me, our family, and our stuff in front of everyone. It's not just about us. It's bigger than that, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. It's about mental health. It's about everyone finding a place to be heard. Daniel looked like he was wrestling with words he couldn't quite find. Eduardo intervened gently, stepping beside his son, trying to bridge an unseen gap. I came back because I think we can figure this out together. I've been distant, when you needed me most, he addressed Daniel, his sincerity undeniable. Figure out what? Daniel fired back. That you failed me and Mom. You're just here for the show now. A heaviness settled between them, yet Maria felt a shift in energy possibility amid the conflict. It was raw, painful, but necessary. It was grounding. There's more to mental health than just the pain, Maria said, taking the opportunity to steer everything back. We talk about our struggles to grow stronger, to connect, to heal. We're all wounded in some way, even you, Daniel. Daniel flinched at her words, the sharp truth striking a chord. For a moment, his defenses dropped. Maria saw a glimmer of connection breaking through his anger. I don't want to talk about it, Mom, or him. He gestured to Eduardo. A ripple of murmurs danced through the crowd, every observer caught in the tension of their awkward unveiling. Maria swallowed hard. She had to push through for everyone in that room, including her son. But what if talking is the very thing that helps us? Daniel looked up at her, his eyes wavering. I don't know. I'm scared too, Eduardo chimed in, his voice steady and filled with emotion. But I'm here now. Let us at least try. For you, for us. He extended a hand, a tentative olive branch. The crowd held its breath, eyes flickering back and forth between Daniel and Eduardo. The moment felt both monumental and fragile. Maria stepped forward again. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to not know how to start. But could Daniel accept this plea? Would he see it as a chance for healing or another betrayal? With the weight of uncertainty hanging between them, Maria had to fight for this moment. She would need to reach into the tumultuous waters with Daniel and Eduardo. The silence stretched on, heavy like a storm about to break, and then, as Daniel's expression shifted from pain to contemplation, Maria wondered if they would finally find the strength to confront their demons together, or would they fall apart once more. Daniel stood frozen, wrestling with feelings swirling like a tornado within him. The weight of his mother's words drummed against the walls he had built around his heart. The crowd, now a sea of curious faces, leaned forward as if trying to read the thoughts racing through his mind. Eduardo's arm fell to his side, his hand trembling as he pulled it back. Looking down, he seemed to shrink under his son's glare. Daniel's breath quickened, and he clenched his fists at his sides. You don't get to just show up, Dad. You were never there when it counted. Maria winced. The truth cut deep, but there was a defiance in Daniel's voice that she understood all too well. Sonia, who had been observing from the back, caught Maria's eye, hoping for a resolution. She could feel the tension rippling through everyone like an electric current. Exhibiting strength doesn't mean pushing away the people who love you, Daniel. Maria's voice was firm, a calm amidst the emotional turbulence. It's okay to admit you're hurt. It's okay to let us in. Daniel's eyes turned wild. Hurt? You think I'm just hurt? He took a step closer, the fury etched into his face. This isn't just about me. It's about everything you and he have built on my back. Your problems, his failures. I don't want to be a part of this. Silence blanketed the air, then came a gasp from the crowd. Maria felt her heart drop. A part of her wanted to snatch Daniel into a protective embrace, yet she knew he needed to face this storm head-on. Eduardo, trembling slightly, dared to speak again. I know I messed up, and I can't take back those years. I've dedicated my life to work thinking it would make things better. But I see now that I should have been here. I should have fought for you. Fought for me? Daniel sneered, hurt lining his voice. You didn't even notice I was drowning. Something in his tone softened, the anger mixed with vulnerability breaking through. I felt invisible and you never cared. At that moment, Eduardo's face crumpled, sorrow pulling him down. Tears filled his eyes, emotions pouring forth he had hidden for too long. I do care, Daniel. I was just scared. I thought if I worked harder, I could give you everything you'd want. Maria stepped closer to Daniel, desperate for him to see that this moment could mean something. This is an opportunity for all of us. We can recover together. If we are willing to be vulnerable now, we can rewrite how our family story ends. Daniel looked at her, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. Yet she felt his resistance softening. She sensed a crack forming in his facade, as bitter tears threatened to break free. Eduardo seized the moment. What if we sit down together? Just us three. No excuses. Just honesty and courage. I can take a break from work, commit myself to you guys if you'll let me in. The crowd was quiet as they awaited Daniel's response. Maria's heart raced as she held her breath, willing Daniel to take a step forward, to open up to the possibility of repair. Are you serious? Daniel's voice cracked, his anger melting into something that resembled hope. You really think we can be a family after everything? In that instant, two divergent paths lay before them, one leading toward restoration, the other toward further destruction. The air felt thick with unspoken words and possibilities. Would Daniel grasp this chance, the one that meant they could all heal? Or was this a turning point that might push them even further apart? As the moment stretched on, Maria knew they stood on the edge of a pivotal choice. And she dared to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, love could begin to mend what was once broken. But the question lingered: could Daniel really trust again, and would he reach out to claim this moment before the chance slipped away? Daniel's heart raced. He was teetering on the edge of something huge, something that scared him as much as it excited him. The air felt pregnant with anticipation, each face in the crowd reflecting a spectrum of emotions: curiosity, hope, concern. His father stood there, a ghost of the man he had wished for, while Maria tried to break through the fortress around his heart. Just tell me what you want, Dad. The words came out sharper than he intended, laced with an endless whirl of anger and confusion. What do you genuinely want from me? Eduardo looked directly into Daniel's eyes, a raw honesty in his own. I want a chance. I want to make sense of this, us. I want to be the father I should have been. I want you to find the strength to let me in, even if it feels impossible right now. Daniel's fists relaxed, the tension in his body loosening as the weight of his dad's admission hit him. Even with all those years lost, there was something painfully genuine in Eduardo's words. But the years of silence echoed loudly in his ears, making it hard to grant forgiveness any space to grow. Maria stepped closer, her own heart thudding as she sensed the opening. Daniel, this can be a step toward healing, she urged gently, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't have to do it all in one moment. Just be honest about how you feel. Honest? Daniel laughed bitterly, shaking his head. You want honesty? I don't even know where to start. You both made me feel like I was always an afterthought, like I was never good enough to be cared for. His hands shook, memories of forgotten birthdays and sleepless nights flood his thoughts. I was scared, too. Scared that I'd never really matter. A murmur rippled through the crowd, the sting of Daniel's words resonating deeply among those who understood his pain. Eduardo stepped forward, his voice cracking as he responded, then let's talk about it. Each scar, each moment of neglect. Let us pull it all into the light. I owe it to you. Daniel stared at his father, feeling the vulnerability radiating from him. Could this be real? Could his dad change the narrative they had been stuck in for so long? The warmth of hope began to thaw the ice encasing his heart. Okay, he finally breathed out, taking a step closer to Eduardo. But this isn't going to be easy. I need to know you're all in. No more empty words. Then I'll prove it, Eduardo replied, a new resolve steadied his voice. I will do whatever it takes to rebuild what's broken. With that small promise, something shifted in the air. Even Maria felt it, like a spark igniting a kindling fire. Daniel caught her gaze, a blend of uncertainty and something that looked like trust beginning to flicker. The crowd buzzed quietly, as they bore witness to this raw moment. Hope hung delicately in the balance. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, clarity sharpening his resolve. Let us do this right. Together. And for the first time, they were all stepping into a space without fear, a space ready for vulnerability and the unknown. But just as Daniel felt a wave of determination rising, a voice broke through from the back, piercing the moment like a sudden gust of wind. What if it's already too late? All heads turned, a collective gasp echoing in the charged atmosphere. Daniel's heart raced once more. What more could he lose? The tension snapped like a taut string, and Maria's expression shifted from hope to dread, breathing life into the looming question: was it too late to mend their fractured bonds, or was this just the beginning of an unimaginable journey? Daniel's pulse quickened, the weight of that unexpected voice settling like a stone in his stomach. The crowd's unease turned to whispers, a wave of confusion passing through the onlookers. He scanned the faces around him, each a mirror reflecting his own uncertainty. Maria's eyes widened, pulling him back to ground as dread swirled in her gaze. Who said that? Daniel's voice rose above the murmurs, cutting through the tension. A nervous laugh erupted from the back, and a young woman in a bright red jacket stepped forward. I did. Her voice was small but determined, drawing the spotlight to her. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is great. But look at you all. Can we really fix what's broken when the pieces are scattered everywhere? Eduardo's brow furrowed at the girl's words. And what would you know about it? He asked, his tone sharper than he intended. I know enough, she replied, her voice steady. I know that saying words is one thing. But actions? They speak louder. Trust me, I've seen how quick a family can fall apart. You want to rebuild? Then you better start digging into the dirt. The room fell silent. Daniel felt every pulse of his heartbeat in his temples. This wasn't how he imagined this moment. Every ounce of hope that had begun to fill him now felt heavy, as if gravity itself was wanting to bury them under years of regret. Look, Maria began, stepping closer. What's your name? Lila, the girl said, her shoulders squared as she faced them all. And I know how scary change can be. But it's a choice. It involves forgetting, forgiving, and actually putting in the work. Spoiling for a fight with your past doesn't solve anything. Do you really think it's that simple? Daniel leaned in, his frustration boiling over. How could you possibly understand what I've been through? Maybe I can't, Lila said softly, the corner of her mouth quirking up a little. But I do know what it's like to want a family who actually sees you. A family that wants you back. I've fought for mine tooth and nail, so I get it. It's messy. But here's the thing, every moment you waste overthinking it only pushes you further apart. A silence filled the space, a cord stretching tight before snapping back. Daniel felt anger bubbling beneath the surface, but also a flicker of something else in Lila's firm expression, a challenge, perhaps. I'm willing to listen, Eduardo finally said, breaking the silence. Maybe we can sit down, the three of us, and talk about everything that's gone wrong. I want to too, but this isn't just about talk, Daniel insisted, shaking his head. It means doing things differently. No more second-guessing, no more hiding. The air shifted again, crackling with possibility. Lila nodded, her gaze steady. Good. So let us make a pact, then. A commitment to really be there for each other. No more running away. Daniel's heart beat hard within his chest, washing away the remnants of doubt. Perhaps she was right. Maybe it was time to get honest in a way he never had before. As he looked at Maria and his father, hope and fear intertwined within him. Could they all truly engage in the hard work ahead of them? But before he could voice his thoughts, an unexpected voice shouted from the back. You'll regret it. It hung in the air as if to taunt him, brewing doubt, and suddenly it all felt precarious again. Who is that? Daniel snapped, the hope in him teetering toward skepticism. The crowd stirred once more, eyes darting, but his attention was locked on the voice that threatened to collapse everything before it had even begun. What lay ahead felt uncertain, like hovering on the edge of a cliff. Was this moment of connection worth it, or was it just another spark ready to extinguish in the face of harsh reality? The room turned electric with murmurs, all eyes shifting toward the source of the accusatory voice. Daniel felt a sense of suffocation wrapping around him, a mixture of outrage and fear coursing through his veins. He turned to see a figure standing at the back, shadowed yet unmistakably recognizable. It was Tony, a familiar face from their past, the kind of person who thrived on drama. "Tony?" Daniel managed, trying to keep his voice steady. "What do you mean?" Tony's smirk was like a dark cloud. "You all think you can patch things up and be one big happy family? Please. It's all a joke. You'll be back to where you started in no time." His laugh rang out, a chilling reminder of the arguments and turmoil that had once dominated their lives. Lila stepped forward, her composure unwavering, but Daniel could see a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "You don't know us. You don't understand what we're trying to do here," she said firmly, her voice punctuated with conviction. "It's easy to talk. Harder to change," Tony shot back, taking a step closer, his eyes gleaming like he was reveling in the chaos. "What makes you think this time will be different? Families are meant to break apart, especially yours." These words struck Daniel like a physical blow. His breath caught. Maria shifted beside him, her hand covering her mouth in shock. He could feel tension building in the room, a mixture of disbelief and anger. "Shut up, Tony," Daniel spat, his voice rising. "This is our chance. We've all made mistakes, and we want to fix things." "Fix things?" Tony laughed again, louder this time. "You think wishing for it is the same as doing it? You're wasting your breath." In that moment, Daniel felt both fury and despair flooding him. "You have no idea what we've gone through," he snapped. "You don't even know what family means." The crowd watched, a live audience to the unfolding drama. Eyes darted between Daniel and Tony, awaiting a reaction. Lila moved closer to Daniel, her presence a steadying force. "We choose to rise above the noise," she said softly but firmly. Daniel took a deep breath, grounding himself in her words. "This is a choice. We have to break the cycle. For my family, for yours." His voice cracked slightly, but the resolve was stronger. "What happened in the past cannot define us. We can change." "Change?" Tony sneered, rolling his eyes dramatically. "You're all deluding yourselves. One moment of honesty won't erase years of hurt." "Maybe not," Lila stepped forward, challenging him, "but what if it's the first real step? Maybe instead of tearing each other down, we should be building each other up." Daniel turned to Maria, who was watching the exchange between Lila and Tony, her gaze softening as she saw the truth in Lila's words. "Let him talk," she said, her voice filled with newfound strength. "But we won't let him dictate our future. It's ours to shape now." Then a hush fell. The crowd seemed to draw closer, whispering, sharing glances. Daniel could feel the shift, something fragile yet powerful weaving through the air. This moment might not just be about confrontation, it could be a turning point, but just then, with a flicker of concern, Lila interjected. "You will regret it if you walk away from this opportunity." Daniel felt the weight of those words sink in, a moment suspended in time. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see if he could take that step forward or retreat back into darkness. Suddenly, a voice broke the tension again, this time filled with panic. "You don't want to face the consequences." It echoed ominously, the tone warning, shifting the atmosphere once more. Daniel's heart raced. He turned, searching the crowd, but the voice had disappeared into the growing turmoil. What consequences were they all so afraid of? Was hope merely a mirage on the horizon, or could they gather the strength to face whatever lay ahead? And as uncertainty mingled with a flicker of hope, Daniel clenched his fists, ready to confront the storm brewing around him. Would he stand firm, or would it all unravel before he could even begin? The air seemed thick, charged with an electric tension as Daniel's mind raced. Faces around him blurred in and out, but all he could focus on was Tony. The shadows of their past loomed large in the room, and Daniel felt the weight of every moment they had been through together. He had longed for a chance to reconnect, to heal together, but the darkness Tony brought threatened to extinguish even the tiniest spark of hope. Consequences? Daniel spat, clenching his jaw. What do you know about consequences, Tony? You've always run from them. Lila had stepped back slightly, her hands trembling ever so slightly. It was clear whatever fight she had in her was now burdened with doubt. But Daniel felt the fire growing inside him. He would not let Tony take this moment away from them. You want to talk about years of hurt? He continued, grounding his voice. We've all been through hell. But we also found ways to rise from it. We're here, right now, wanting to make things better. Another murmur swept through the crowd, and Daniel felt their eyes bore into him, waiting for some sort of resolution. He realized now that they weren't just there for him, they were there for all of them. It wasn't merely about confronting Tony. It was about making a choice, a collective choice to shift from darkness to light. Tony crossed his arms, the smirk still plastered on his face, unfazed. You really think you can change everything with just some words? You're deluding yourselves. People don't change. They just build better prisons for their pain. Why do you keep coming back? Maria's voice rang out, steady yet filled with emotion. Do you thrive on this? Watching us suffer? Or are you afraid that we might actually succeed? The silence that followed was heavy. Daniel watched as Tony's smirk faltered, confusion mingled with anger on his face. For the first time, he looked vulnerable. Success. Tony scoffed, but the challenge in Maria's voice hit home. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Lila stepped forward again, her gaze unwavering, determination shining in her eyes. Let us be disappointed, if that's what it takes. It's better than pretending everything is fine while we're falling apart. With those words, it felt as if the walls were cracking, letting in light. The murmurs turned to whispers of encouragement. Could it be? Were they really gathering enough strength to push back against the shadows Tony cast over them? Without breaking eye contact with Tony, Daniel took a step closer, fueled by the collective resilience swirling in the room. You think you know our family? He asked, his voice fierce yet calm. You don't. We're capable of so much more than you give us credit for. We've struggled, and we're still here. In a moment that felt both exhilarating and terrifying, the crowd began to murmur louder, their energy shifting from dread to hope. Daniel could feel their collective heartbeat, the realization that they were not alone echoing in the room. This was their time, their moment to claim, but then a shadow fell over the gathering. What if the past doesn't let you move on? Tony's voice broke through like a cold wind. What if you face something worse? Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. The question hung there, heavy and unspoken fears creeping back into the light. Could they really break free? Whatever it is, we'll face it together, Daniel declared, finding solidarity in their combined resolve. But even as the words left his mouth, nagging doubts crept in like shadows, whispering their taunts. Was this truly the beginning of something new? Or just another fleeting moment before the past consumed them once more? As Daniel waited for the answer, uncertainty filled him with a haunting dread. What kind of trials awaited as they ventured down this uncertain path? The tension in the room reached a boiling point, and Daniel felt the weight of every unresolved issue pressing down on him. He looked around at the crowd, searching their faces for affirmation. But his eyes found only one person, Eduardo. Their gazes locked, and in that moment, a mutual understanding passed between them. Whatever it takes, Daniel muttered, conviction settling in his voice. We have to confront our past. Together. And that means we have to be honest. All of us. Eduardo nodded slowly, the weight of years resting heavily on his shoulders. I'm ready to start. But I need to know if you're willing, son. Are you willing to fight for this? Daniel felt the heat rise in his chest. It's not just about you and me, Dad. This is bigger than our regrets. It's about all of us. He glanced at Maria, whose eyes shimmered with hope. Her presence felt warm, grounding him, reminding him of the love that had always been there, even amidst chaos. Speak your truth, she encouraged him gently, and that was all it took. Daniel straightened his back, feeling the fear slip away like an old ghost. Tony, you might think you know me. You only see the anger. But every time I lashed out, every punch I threw, it wasn't because I'm weak. It was because I was trying to be strong in a world that felt like it didn't want me. The silence that followed was profound. The crowd leaned in closer, wrapped in a cocoon of shared pain. And now, Daniel continued, his voice thick with emotion, I don't want to fight anymore. I want to heal. I want us, he gestured to the crowd, to be better than this. To stand together, face our fears, and rise above. As his heart raced, he felt Eduardo step closer, his father's hand landing gently on his shoulder. Let us make a pact, Daniel. No more running from our mistakes. I want to be here for you. I will show you that I'm committed to ending this cycle. The room buzzed with a palpable energy, and Daniel turned to Lila. You've been so brave, calling us out. I admire that. Let us all stay brave. Not just now, but forever. Agreed, Lila said, a smile playing on her lips. We hold each other accountable. Tony laughed, though it was weaker this time. You really think it will matter? I know it will, Daniel shot back, determination filling the spaces between their words. It's a choice we make every day. Maria stepped up, her presence radiating. And we're going to succeed together, taking one step at a time. Her voice echoed solidly through the crowd, breaking down barriers and paving the way for unity. As they spoke, Daniel felt something shift inside him. The anger that had threatened to consume him now gave way to understanding. Embracing vulnerability felt like a radical act, one they all needed to embrace. Family doesn't mean perfection, Eduardo added, laying a hand over his heart. It means showing up when it matters most. Exactly. Daniel exclaimed. Starting today, we'll face it all. And Tony, if you can't support that, then maybe you're the one who needs to reconsider where you belong. The atmosphere shifted, and for the first time, Tony seemed uneasy. But Daniel didn't wait for a reaction. Instead, he felt buoyed by the support of those around him. Let us create a new beginning, one that focuses on love and healing, he declared, striding forward with renewed strength in every step. Applause broke out in the crowd, washing over them like waves. Hope surged. The rally continued, but Daniel was no longer in the shadows. He stood there, a beacon amid shifting tides, holding his father's hand and Maria's heartbeat steady beside him. And as they began to talk openly about their past, about mental health, about loss and pain, Daniel felt the ties that had once held them back loosening. That's when he realized the tide had finally turned, each shared story, each vulnerable confession brought them closer. Slowly, but surely, they were all finding their way home. So here's the deal, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see how transformation truly unfolds. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and make sure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. And comment below about your feelings on this ending. The power of community is real, and together we can rise.